This is Mark Washington for Making the Cut. Hey, if you saw the press conference yesterday with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, you could definitely tell that there's a lot of things in play here. A genuine dislike, and I know that term is always overused. But no, there's a genuine dislike there. I think Deontay Wilder not accepting the second fight as a loss and the excuse making, the accusations has really caused this to be almost like a bad blood type of fight. And there are some personal feelings. And I'll be honest with you, if I was Wilder, I wouldn't have liked some of the things that Fury said. And if I was Fury, I wouldn't like some of the things that Wilder said about me cheating or potentially cheating, or however you want to put it. But we're going to look at the keys real quick. Keys for Tyson Fury. Well, he's been very vocal. He's going to come straight forward because he feels like he can just walk in there and pretty much wallop Deontay Wilder. I expect for Fury to be very, very active and aggressive very early in this fight. I truly believe that he's going to try to make this fight go faster than the other fight, the second fight. And plus, there is this feeling that Fury no longer fears Deontay Wilder's right hand. Right? Wilder hit him with a perfect right hand in the first fight, and he got up like he was The Undertaker. And I really do think that gave Fury this psychological edge, and I think it almost crushed Wilder because it was the first time anyone had done that to him. And we don't know if Wilder will ever recover from that. That could be one of those watershed moments. The other thing for Fury will be head movement. He has been moving his head a lot in those fights, and frankly, Wilder has not been accurate enough to be able to, again, discourage Fury from doing what he wants to do. If Fury doesn't keep his head straight there, again, the head movement could open up a lot of opportunities for Fury. You know, him and his feinting, and then next thing you know, you could see Fury be the one who lands the big punches. And last but not least for Fury, don't let Anthony Joshua's loss be a distraction. We know that Fury won the two fights with Anthony Joshua, and Wilder legally challenged it, and they upheld that this third fight has to happen. And then Joshua went and lost to Usyk. So that Joshua fight right now, at least in its scope of profitability, has kind of left the table. Joshua's going to have to fight Usyk again. So that has been put on the shelf. And even then, there is no guarantee that Joshua will win the second fight. And we'll talk about the second fight when the second fight comes, because I have a lot of opinions on that second fight. So Fury can't let that be a distraction. He can't let it be like, well, I beat Wilder so easy for this second fight. I don't have the Joshua fight on the table anymore. You know, so I get sloppy a little bit, or, you know, I just come in there with this reckless abandon, almost being a little bit too overconfident. Fury has to defend against that. And the keys for Deontay Wilder starts with an effective jab. If Fury does walk in, which we all expect that Fury was not lying about walking in, then Wilder needs to have an effective jab that's going to discourage Fury from doing that. He's going to have to land it early and often. And it doesn't even have to be a hard jab. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to try to knock him out with my jab. It just has to be a scoring jab. A scoring jab gets you in the flow of the fight and gets you in the flow of the fight early. There was a stat earlier today showing that Wilder's first round productivity as far as throwing punches continuously dips, and it was under 20, maybe even under 15 in the second Fury fight. So it's got to be out there. It's got to be a scoring jab. Wilder needs to maybe try to put some rounds in his pocket. I know he hasn't fought that way in the past because he has that killer right hand, but this is one of these times where he might want to get that jab going early. Try to take a couple of 10-9 rounds in the first 3 or 4 rounds so you're on the scorecards and you're not so far behind trying to depend on, well, I'll knock him out anyway, like you did in the second Ortiz fight and that type of. He's not Ortiz, you know, so it starts with the jab. Wilder, number 2, has to go to the body. I mean, he has to punish Fury to the body, get in there, dig. I don't care how good of a shape the Fury is in. It'll start slowing him down. It'll start getting him to stand there. Again, maybe that's when you go ahead and you end up being able to land that right hook, that right hand. But he has to go to the body. That varied attack. Wilder has to be smarter in the ring. Not only more active, but smarter. And it starts with going with the body. Last but not least, activity. Wilder has to be active. We talked about earlier the work rate in the first round has been dipping. It has to be throughout the fight. Wilder does way too much standing and way too much loading up on the right hand and way too much, oh, it doesn't matter what scorecard says because I'm going to get a knockout. And he can't do that, not with Tyson Fury. We've seen it in 2 fights. He almost got away with it in the first fight, which I think gave him a false sense of comfort going into the second fight. Oh, this time around when I hit him with the right hand, he won't get up. And then what ended up happening was you didn't even get your right hand off. And when it did, he shook him off. Remember, Wilder hit Fury with a hard right hand in that second fight early in that fight, and Fury didn't go anywhere. He didn't go anywhere. And I think at that point, Fury's like, oh, I got him. I'm going to knock him out. And he ended up knocking him out. Prediction for the fights? Hey, I think you probably know where this is going. I just don't think that Wilder has changed enough. And even if I'm wrong, it's going to take more than one fight for those changes to appear in an effective manner against a fighter like Tyson Fury. Now, Wilder, again, we talked about the right hand a lot. Wilder still always has that right hand, and certainly he could land one and knock Fury out. But in fights like this, it's hard for me to take the guy who can only win in singular fashion. And Wilder can only win in a singular fashion, which is Fury makes a mistake, I hit him with a right hand, and I knock him out. Tyson Fury can win in multiple ways. He can win with movement. He could just win with being a technical boxer. He can win by coming forward and pressuring Wilder. So for me, I think that Fury wins this fight. It'll be more competitive than the second fight. I don't believe that Fury's going to knock him out faster than he did in the second fight. But I do think that Fury, because he has multiple ways to win, he is my choice for Saturday.